Orb presents Home Insecurity.
This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Orb on Home Insecurity.
Yeah, this episode aired on August 21st of 2004. You may be thinking, that's weird. That's not how it is on the DVD. Things are a little bit weird, a little bit messed up. This is the next episode by air date, but of course the network messed around with that.
Yes. So if you're wondering, why we're doing this now, what happened to your favorite episode, it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of why we're doing this now, order is arbitrary.
Yeah.
Eventually, the show will become so serialized that we couldn't do this.
Yes.
But for now, we can actually go in air order.
Yeah.
This is another episode. I keep having episodes of this show, doing this read, coming through as better than they are to me in hindsight.
Yeah.
This episode, the show on our network, is going to become the closest thing that we have to just like tripping over ourselves to fawn over things for me.
Yeah.
Like there's so many good jokes in this, and the show supports a close read. Like the episodes that I remember being kind of weaker, in fact, are actually pretty good.
Yes, they still have plenty of good incident, even if, some of the central pinnings are not necessarily that great. You can tell that they didn't really have a plan for what Baron Ünderbheit was supposed to be or do.
Yeah. I mean, they talk about that a little bit in the book, their original plan.
Yeah.
This episode in multiple ways feels like such a season 1 episode. One, because Baron Ünderbheit is the central character, and that is born of their initial idea of having kind of a monster of the week, kind of villain of the week situation rather than these long form dynamics. Two, the idea of two villains, henchmen just happening to show up on the same night, like a Cheers plot, is so it's not hacky, but it feels obvious.
Yeah.
To me, like it just feels like the kind of idea that, like a first draft idea, like an early idea.
Yeah.
It's not very sophisticated. Within this, there are tons of jokes. There are things that I really love. I've always had a weird soft spot for Ünderbheit.
Yeah.
Not that I think he's like good as the Monarch, where he leads to a lot of really good things. I just like it because it signals. I like it when the Venture Brothers leaves the Johnny Quest realm and goes to the more outlandish Marvel Comics realm. And when they do that later, we get better returns.
Yes.
We get funnier things. But this as the first kind of dip into like, no, it's not just a guy in a costume. There's whole other nations, and there's lots of guys in costumes.
Yeah.
And, they're all just these like beautiful, weird pun names and such.
God, I wish I had their ability to come up with these just throwaway villains that like they can literally just create and kill in one scene. That would be like a whole joke.
Imagine throwing away Manic 8 Ball.
Yeah.
Like you don't throw away Manic 8 Ball.
Yeah, science point to know.
Yeah, you introduce them to your parent. You take them home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Manic 8 Ball is solid.
That's such a good design too. I mean,
yeah. Just incredible. And what are his powers? Like, how is he efficacious as a villain?
Same thing with Catclops. Yeah.
Yeah. Catclops, who's one of his eyes is a cat. Also, Catclops, not a pun or wordplay or anything. It's just a weird design.
Yeah.
That kind of thing I really love. So this is a kind of signaling towards the bigness. There are a lot of first in air date, first mention of the guild, 21 and 24 themselves. Like this is an important episode. They're interfacing with real pop culture. This is the first time, like the $6 Million Man shows up in this. Like the things that this show was inspired by also happened in this universe, both on TV and real. In a way that is really neat. That kind of blending of all pulp reality together. Again, in air date, whenever I say something is the first in this, it's got an asterisk next to it.
Right.
In air date, this is the first kind of show of a bunch of things I thought were really I think are special about the program.
Yeah, they show up here, and they're pretty good right away. Even if just the idea of the Guild of Calamitous Intent is just thrown off as a name, it's like it's not a plot thing. It's literally just like a joke about bureaucracy. I love it.
Yeah, and it will become more of a plot thing. Obviously, even in this season, I think they had that planned. Yeah. But it is it's nice to just see it. It feels good to have it show up. So this is the basic plot of this episode is Brock goes away for his yearly sabbatical, and the Ventures are vulnerable to attack by their villains, and 2 different villains attack on the same night.
Yes. As we said, we've got Ünderbheit, we've got our henchmen showing up. Not just as, Speedy kind of having the voice of 2021. Yeah, there we go. I get them mixed up until one of them dies.
Yes.
So we actually have them as their character, like even giving a little bit of their backstory and stuff. And then also an offhanded mention to the to the guild here. Ünderbheit was always kind of their dime store version of Dr. Doom. Where we
literally, that dime store Dr. Doom.
Yep. Yeah. And we will meet the rest of the Fantastic Four a little bit later, although Ünderbheit has nothing to do with them with that version of it here.
And Ünderbheit does ultimately come back. He ties into some episodes, but he is definitely, a kind of a lowercase villain. You get the sense that Jackson and Doc got a little tired of him.
Yeah.
Like they thought the idea would be more fun than it ended up being. And they talk about this in the book. The idea was he was meant to be just absolutely Herengulon, like just all kinds of war crimes, just like a really disgusting character. And they talked about how the pacing of the show didn't allow this.
Yeah.
They wanted to have things like, oh, this is a live puppy fountain. And he would be like taking everyone's kids on birth to like put them in the orphan mines.
Yeah.
And they just didn't have time to set it up. The pacing of the show, it's too jam-packed and a 22-minute show, just didn't allow for them to really give this guy as much of a hook.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant visual design. The jaw and the way that goes into Unterland and looks like a U with the umlaut and everything, like his costume is very of a piece.
Yeah.
He's a really nice design. But in terms of how he fits into the show, it's a little weird.
Yeah. Also, I find it kind of hard to understand him when he talks.
Sure.
Which is because of the
Racist.
accents. No, it's not just because of his like faux German accent that, or just a pop culture idea of what a German accent would be. There's also like they're doing some kind of like pitch stuff on him or like doing a little bit of an impediment because he literally has an iron jaw. There's something about the way that he talks that makes him hard to understand to me. And if you can't understand what somebody's saying, it is difficult for jokes from them to land.
Yeah. And then there also just aren't a lot of jokes that he makes in this. He's a little bit, a little bit less joke focused as a character, even though there are lots of jokes in the episode. The idea of them kind of 2 villains squabbling over each other was a reference to a movie called The Raven from 1963. It is a Vincent Price, Boris Karloff movie that I watched the finale of on YouTube. And if you want to see Vincent Price with multiple arms like a Shiva floating in a chair, just scowling at Boris Karloff.
Gary,
have I got the YouTube? Yeah, have I got the YouTube for you? It's bonkers and beautiful. It is a wonderful clip.
Yeah. Huh.
So I gotta watch The Raven. At first I was like, oh, The Raven.
Yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Nope. There's a trailer for a similar vintage movie that is The Raven that I think has Vincent Price in it.
It might be a Roger Corman joint, possibly.
Yeah. When I put like The Raven like Wizard Duel or something, and I got the ending of this, it's real weird, man.
Yeah,
60s effects. So
love it. Love that psychedelia. Yeah. But yeah, so this is an episode that on the DVD, it does not have commentary, but you can find it online. It is one of the more, let's say, meandering commentaries they have.
I didn't find it. I didn't actually know about this. Yeah, I just like ended up watching it on DVD and saw that there's no commentary and did my usual research.
Yes.
That I do in trying to find like,
Yeah,
but I have not listened to the commentary.
If you just do a search for Venture Brothers Home Insecurity missing commentary, you'll find a link to an audio file of it. It was cut from the DVD for space, but also like it's kind of just Public and Hammer having a good fun conversation with each other. There, it's information light, let's say.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, but
Yep.
it makes sense for it to have been cut.
Yes. Yeah. So I said all that, but there's also an important thing. This is this is where I heard them make a point that you've made, Gary, where they talk about the show being about failure, saying that everything here is a version of something else that just sucks. It hates what it does. It hates that it is not living up to a potential, even if that's a potential they don't want to do. And how all of us are failures, and failure is beautiful is almost word for word what they say.
Yeah, that's something that they'll invoke in interviews a lot.
Yeah.
And around the time I got into this, like this has historically been something that has resonated with me. It's something I think about with a movie, and this is a real normie movie to really love in your early 20s, but something I think about a lot with the Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, yeah.
Which I also consider to be a movie about failure and people past their prime. That's always been a very resonant theme with me. Because I'm past my prime. Yeah. Hey, Gary, when are you going to write a book again? Fuck you. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that is a very resonant theme with Gary Butterfield. Let's get into it and kind of start unpacking this stuff, because it is a dense episode.
Yes. Yeah. So we have our cold open. We are in Unterland, which a later episode details, and I love this. It is near Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah. Just about. Yeah, I love the idea that, because it's when they show the exterior of it, it definitely looks like
Toledo, Ohio.
Latveria.
Yeah.
Doctor Doom's land from Marvel Comics. People who don't know who Doctor Doom is, Fantastic Four. He's also Reed Richards' old roommate, which is going to be tying into the origin of Ünderbheit. He runs a country in the Marvel universe, and everyone just lets him do it.
Yeah.
Thor is like, yeah, okay, do your war crimes.
nobody thinks, hey, let's stop that.
He's getting this update about how things are going, and this is full of like little one-line beauties, like the idea of like attendance being up at the Baron Ünderbheit birth crevasse. What does that mean? And then also this is the first appearance of dilly-dallying. And I love dilly-dallying. We got our three one-off villains here. We got Cat Klops, who you mentioned, who's kind of a tough guy with like one eye that is a cat's face. Manic 8-Ball, who is a magic 8-ball in like a black fitting bodysuit, who can shake his chest and make a magic 8-ball thing appear. For people who don't know what a magic 8-ball is, it is a sphere that looks like an 8-ball, and it has a little 4-sided dice inside, or multiple.
It's a 20-sided dice. It's an icosahedron. Yeah.
Oh yeah. What is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Has triangle faces. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so does a 4-sided dice.
Well, yeah. But
when I've seen it before, it looked like anyway, it doesn't matter. But it has it's an oracle device. Like the idea is you shake it and it gives you an answer like yes, no, maybe so. All signs point to yes, etc.
Yeah.
And then from the pitch book, Girl Hitler.
Which is literally just a female Hitler. Her report is about the child slave mines, how there was a little bit of insurrection, but they cut the feet off of the alpha males and the popular girls. And literally her only character trait is that she screams everything.
Yes. This is very one note.
Yes.
Girl Hitler, and just modification on Hitler, has a little bit of that early 2000s steez to it. The scene is very nice though, where like Ünderbheit leads a toast, but then says they've all betrayed him in some way. He's seen, the coup, the skimming off the top, the crude drawings that people have done. And he gives them a chance to resign. When did the there's something under your chair start? Because I associate that so much with Oprah, like giving people iPads and shit. But like, because it gives them tiger balm.
Yeah. So I don't know when there's something under your chair started. It kind of seems like one of those things that is as old as time, because that's a place that you're not liable to look. But I think of look under your chair and like everybody gets a Pontiac G6 that they have to pay taxes on because nobody thought that through. Actually, and I have no idea where that started. And this tiger balm, which is just a salve, it's like Vicks vapor rub. It's like a burning salve that you can put on your muscles. Like it's a bad pun, and like they're trying to figure out what it is, when in reality it presages Ünderbheit sending in Siberian tigers that have bombs attached to them.
Yes, tiger bombs being the joke.
Yes.
Cat Cops drops the R slur in here. Again, we talked about that in the first episode. That's going to happen.
Yep.
It's not great. They don't spend a lot of time on it, and later there'll be more problematic things about it. But it moves by pretty quick. Yeah. In this, and as they get exploded, manservant, a character who talks to Ünderbheit, comes up and he says, you've eliminated the enemies of Underland. He goes, one remains venture. We get our title screen, our credits. Something about the credits that I just was noticed this time around that I think is funny is the way that they present the characters feels kind of advertising, like in a way that is meant to get me excited. And in my notes I wrote, "We've got Hank," because it just shows up and goes, "Hank Venture," and like the idea, just like, oh man, Hank, rubbing my hands together for extra Hank. It was just very funny to me.
And featuring Brock Sampson, the exciting exploits, and it's
and Dean.
I love it. I love being sold the characters. I mean, it's so of a piece too. Like it's the way that it's the way that they would try to sell you an issue of Spider-Man by having a glory shot of Spider-Man on it. It was like with Spider-Man.
Except it's Hank.
Yeah, we got Hank.
Just like I got Hank. It's very, very funny to me.
Yeah.
So we start off with our beginning here where Brock is packing up to leave on sabbatical. And Rusty is, trying to stop him. He's like, "Oh, we talked about this. We do this every year. I left the number for the National Guard. You'll be okay."
As opposed to call the neighbor if there's a problem. No, National Guard. They'll send a tank down. Hank already is very attached to Brock. He's in the back seat thinking that he's disguised himself by dressing up as an indigenous American.
I'm not sure why.
At the time, they would have called it an Indian chief. And I love this. Brock says, "Sorry," runs with scissors. "I've got to do this alone."
I love that. I love the little bit of slapstick after that when Hank goes, "Oh, okay, hey Brock, watch this," and then just proceeds to fall out of the car.
It's unclear what move he was trying to do.
It's really good. He's like, "That's real good, Hank. You're the man of the house."
Dad, look at me dive. Let me dive. I can do a flip. Dad, look.
And him saying is the man of the house, and Rusty immediately being like, "Oh, you're a big man, huh?" The way the family falls apart, like the absolute second that Brock leaves.
Yeah, even before he leaves, it's just the imminence of his departure causes like a struggle of all against all.
Yeah, it just destroys everything. Like, "Oh, hey, big man," and Dean just crying and saying the family is coming apart in his hover boots. Like, this is so beautiful.
Yeah,
how quickly this happens.
It's nice to know you're needed. Yeah. I didn't realize, is this true? So in the book, they say that Brock taking a sabbatical, they took this idea from Wolverine, where every year he would go and like hunt deer, but not kill them just to prove that he could. Yeah.
The Wolverine does that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I guarantee there's multiple issues where Wolverine goes and chases a deer.
Yeah.
Like every writer who gets a hold of Wolverine, puts their own stamp on him going off to the woods alone and doing a monologue issue.
Right.
And they're all pretty insufferable.
Yeah, I can believe that.
In my opinion, Wolverine's inner monologue is something that I have grown to take some joy in, but not when he's hanging out with deer.
No. I'm more interested in what Wolverine does than what he thinks or says.
I'm very interested in his thoughts. I subscribe to his newsletter, but I want his thoughts about Sabretooth and Cyber.
Yes.
And Lady Deathstrike. Not about deer and woods.
No.
Fuck a deer. Fuck the woods.
I mean, there might be an issue where they did that. Maybe Marvel wouldn't let them run that.
Totally possible.
Yeah.
Did you know another first in this that I have in my notes? This is the first mention of OSI as well.
Oh shit! I didn't make a note of that.
Yeah.
They talk about no. He says, "Oh, I'm with OSI" when he runs up to the MPs, right?
Yeah. Yep. He tries to get in the woods. There's a military blockade here, and he basically, just man modes them. He's like, I'm with OSI here for a little R&R.
Right. OSI being basically CIA mixed with GI Joe that he's a member of.
Yes.
OSI being a play on OSS.
CIA, initially very CIA. The GI Joe stuff comes in way later. It's a little bit of a retcon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, Brock leaves. There's this immediate power struggle. Dean is sobbing in his hover boots, which nobody should sob when they're in hover boots.
No, the hover boots are great.
Yeah.
In this. And Rusty falls asleep at his lab table working on something. Helper picks him up, carries him to bed, but sees that he was working on a new robot.
Yes.
And this is a very pathetic, sad Helper episode. There's a little bit of a Helper origin that they talk about behind the scenes that never made its way into the show. There is a Helper origin that does make it into the show.
Yeah.
But the idea is they wanted to do a flashback where Rusty was a kid hanging out with Helper, and at one point when he became an adult and went to college, he put Helper away but forgot to turn him off. So Helper was in a closet with no stimulation for like a decade.
Okay.
And that is why Helper is so needy and emotionally volatile.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And they do kind of a version of that in this episode, but they never actually kind of showed that scene. But that's something they talk about how they always wanted to do.
Yes. It would be good for the emotional violence that Helper has suffered to take on that directive attack, let's say.
Yes.
Yeah, but I love Helper like going and crying, just quote unquote crying, wiping away a tear that is not falling with a with a little cloth, little tissue. Looking at a picture of him giving young Rusty a piggyback ride, and then putting together a hobo bindle. Like a little kid running away. Like, I'm gonna go join the site. What is in there? I never stopped to ask what was in there, Gary.
Yeah, what's in there? It's very cute. This is a good Helper episode.
I love Helper so much.
Yeah, I love Helper.
And
so
listening to the commentary, apparently, like, Public is a big fan of Helper and is always trying to include him. And Hammer just keeps forgetting that Helper exists.
Sad.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got Brock. He's away. He's on this mountain where the army is very interested in what's going on. They're keeping tight-lipped about it. And Helper has run away. This is leaving Doc Venture vulnerable to the many assassins who are coming after him.
Yes. An Underland assassin shows up the window and drops a scorpion sphere on the ground. And the scorpion starts crawling towards Dr. Venture. At the same time, Henchman 24 opens another window and drops in a tarantula. And this is very funny and very cute.
Yup.
The scorpion tarantula fighting over Dr. Venture is real good. I really love this. And I love as soon as Dr. Venture wakes up and sees it, he hits the panic button because there's bugs on him.
Yeah.
That's really good as well.
And they're on him. Like, what's going to happen is that, is his bed's going to open up and Ethan is going to slide down to the basement. But
he's such a panicky idiot.
Yeah. But like the bugs are still on you, dude.
Yeah, really, really good.
But that causes the shutters to close around the building. They're in full lockdown. The kids are deposited into the panic room.
They are wearing their superhero pajamas. Hank dresses as pajamas as Aquaman, Dean as Spider-Man. These are specifically underoos.
Yeah.
Which were a really big thing. And if you look for them now, they're incredibly expensive. It's like if you want to go on eBay and buy, $2,000 underwear.
Oof.
Like that, you do it through the underoo catalog.
Yeah. So Hank immediately goes into hero mode and decides to fix the bug problem by slamming his dad with a fire extinguisher. Meanwhile, Dean says the first thing you have to do is tie a tourniquet to stop the toxin from reaching the brain.
Yep.
I love tying a tourniquet for a head wound.
Yeah, really, really good. Just these idiots are in charge. Dean sends Hank out to get some anti-venom from First Aid Kit, but we get introduced to Gardo.
Yes.
The security bot with Rusty's face on it, doing the Jindosh thing.
Yes.
Like using its creator's voice to be like, you're intruding on Venture Industries. Crush, kill, destroy.
Yep. His delivery is so half-hearted too. I love it. But yeah, Dean pisses himself and it shorts out his boots.
Man, there's one thing here too when they're trapped in the security room. There's a delivery where Hank points at the door and goes, "That looks like a door." That's really good. Before they go out. But he pisses himself. People are pissing themselves a lot in the early bits of the series. We cut over to Rusty waking up as Hank is trying to choke him with a tourniquet, and this Freudian phase of yours is going too far.
Yep.
Which is real good. Just waiting for his son to grow up and destroy him.
Yeah.
Again, like a Wes Anderson, like Bill Murray's kids.
Yeah.
We're gonna break him apart like a fucking wishbone.
But I love it. It's just again, it's continuing you think you're the big man of the house, huh? And of course, like he immediately goes from trying to assert his role as the father to explaining that it's very common for some men to lactate involuntarily in cases of extreme distress. So he is so scared that he's lactating.
Yeah, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Again, there's a little bit of like a juvenile joke that will go away as the series goes on, but I dig it.
I have a distinct recollection of seeing that in a commercial promo and thinking like, oh, that show looks weird.
Yeah, men lactate from it. Yeah,
that's the show where men lactate. Venture Brothers.
That's that lactating show. The Venture Brothers, primarily about male lactation. I've told this story before. My friend Austin would do that, and I kept joking with him about making his own cheese.
He would do what?
Product.
I'm sorry?
He would lactate.
Okay.
And I joked with him about making his own cheese, and I wanted him to like print up a label with him smiling that was like Austin's choice.
Okay.
And then leave it in stores.
Huh.
And like you see all this cheese, and it'd be like Cowbell, Wisconsin Valley, and then there'd just be one with his face like
Austin selects
Austin selects that he had made from his body.
I guess in my head I knew it might have been possible. You said it so matter of factly. Did dudes lactate?
Oh yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Oh yeah, bro.
Okay.
You mean you don't? I've never done it. It can definitely happen though.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Forgive my ignorance. It's quite. You said it. I thought it was a joke, and then you said it seriously, and I went along with it. But I wanted to make sure. No,
it's true. Do you ever see the Tim and Eric finale of Awesome Show where they do the man milk?
Yes.
Where they both start. That's one of the that's hard for me to watch, and there's not very much that those two dudes do that is hard for me to watch.
Right.
That's really fucking gross.
I've known that it can happen with baby boys. They call it witch's milk because they have a lot of their mom's hormones in them. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I didn't mean to fixate on the lactating thing. It just
it's okay.
I kind of derealized there for a second, and now I'm back. Now it's all
Google lactating for Cole. So the henchmen are talking about their jurisdiction here.
Yes.
Kind of arguing here, and we have 21 and 24. Straight up.
It's not just like the voices of 21 and 24 either. Like, 24 looks a lot like the other henchmen who are all kind of, interchangeable. But like 21, like it's Doc Hammer's voice. It's the voice that would eventually be Gary. And he's like he's heavy set. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's 21. Yeah. 24 calls the Monarch to straighten this out. I love the Monarch picks up the phone going, "Somebody loves the Monarch." I think that's really cute.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And like there's something weird in this episode where Monarch seems to fucking hate Dr. Girlfriend.
Yes, he's a huge dick.
Yeah.
In this. And I don't if this was going somewhere, it's not laying track. Like eventually they become a very believable relationship and really lived in and stuff. And like couples do bicker. Like this, but it's weird. It doesn't pay off within the episode.
Right.
And that's the weird part about it. Like previously when we had shown them bickering, where they're in bed and, when they kidnap the boys during Dielos Dangerous, that did pay off with an episode.
Yes.
This does not. This never resolves.
Right. It just kind of seems like he's being outright hostile to her, as opposed to like hurting her through it, like either in just basically negligence. Usually later on, it is because he is ignoring what she wants or needs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's obsessed.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
They both have like, they have a fairly complicated relationship in this respect. Like it's not where it's just he's an asshole,
right?
But here he just is, and it's a season 1.
Yes.
Thing. Like this will become more sophisticated.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't go anywhere. Like that's the biggest bummer. Like if they were leading up to something, that would be a joke. If this was in service of something,
right,
that would be cool.
No, the joke is that she buys Diet Pop for the summit.
Yeah. And there is something to that where he's just like, taste this then, and that's again, that's very, relatable and kind of funny in the moment, but it doesn't add to anything.
Yeah. But he orders her to go, to call Ünderbheit so they can work this out directly with each other. Meanwhile, like 24 and the henchmen are still like standing on the front lawn of the Venture compound that is on full lockdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
They explain Gardo. Rusty says, I made Gardo. I fell asleep, though, before I programmed his friendly fire into this. So right now, he can't tell the difference between us and an army of snake men hopped up on PCP.
Which is what you don't want attacking your compound. Gardo would be great for that situation.
Yes, and Gardo is effective later.
Yeah.
There's a little joke here where he's like, does Gardo, does that stand for something? Yeah. And then they cut away immediately.
Yeah.
There's a really great little bit too where Monarch starts trying to call Brock. And he's like, Brock, it's an emergency. I can't get to the fridge. Or it's an emergency and I can't get to the fridge.
Yeah.
That reminds me of one of my all-time favorite jokes that I have taken from something. Like I use this every once in a while for an emergency, but there's a Sean Baby joke where he has a character who's like, help, I lost the lid to my yogurt. I'm not hungry anymore. And I think about that a lot.
That's really good.
I lost the lid to my yogurt.
I need to enlist the help of as many people around me as possible to resolve this crisis.
Yeah. Really, really good.
But yeah, he calls Brock, he won't answer because he's busy. Brock, he was sitting on a campfire, probably thinking about a deer or something like that. He hears a noise off in the distance and he throws a knife and hears a scream. They're going to intercut between the Summit story and Brock's story in the actual episode. I have de-interleaved them here for the purpose of clarity, so we can talk about them separately and then get to them when they intersect.
Yep. Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah.
So Ünderbheit arrives at the meeting with the Monarch, and they start doing a little trap on each other, like a little fight. This was really shocking to me. The Monarch has disintegrator rays.
Yep.
Like when Ünderbheit deflects them, and then Ünderbheit throws a sphere from Phantasm.
Yes.
I think that Jackson Public is wrong in the book. He says those are from the movie Sentinel.
Yeah.
I looked up the movie Sentinel, the 1977 movie Sentinel, and there are no spheres in it that I could see. But the spheres from Phantasm are called Sentinel spheres.
Yes.
And I got that special little feeling you get when somebody famous and smarter than you is wrong.
Yep.
It's like,
for that one moment, you're better than him. You're the creator of the Venture Brothers now.
Yep, IMDb Air page, here I come. But IMDb for books. Yeah. So I have never seen the 1977 film Sentinel. I think he's referring to Sentinel spheres from Phantasm because that is straight up just one of the spheres from Phantasm, one of the all-time best spheres.
It's a good sphere.
In a show. God, in terms of orbs and spheres, the Sentinel spheres from Phantasm have a rich and storied history, and I adore them.
No, I mean, leagues ahead of the spheres from, or the orbs rather, from, Warlock.
Space?
Blah.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
The wiki, the Venture Brothers wiki, sometimes they get a little trigger happy with these, such as when they say that the bugs fighting over over Dr. Venture's body is an allusion to Star Wars Episode 2, where two little droids
Or two bugs just happen to fight.
Yeah, like two assassin bugs fighting in Queen Amidala. I don't think they get a little trigger happy. They don't mention Sentinel, but they do mention that the sphere that is thrown here is from Phantasm.
It's straight up from Phantasm.
Yeah,
and everybody should watch Phantasm.
Phantasm it's good. It's a good sphere.
Phantasm owns. It's fucking weird.
Much better sphere than from Warlock.
Oh yeah. I mean, Cole, we all know what your feelings on the Warlock sphere. So they eventually give up on this. Like, okay, we tried. Let's actually
I love that it's just protocol. Like,
yeah. This is, they're basically having this pissing contest over who gets to do this. And Ünderbheit says, this is personal. I have a grudge. Monarch goes, oh, what's personal about it? And he like points to his jaw. He was responsible for, he's like, yes, where I come from, a lab partnership is a sacred trust. One's always supposed to look after their lab partner. And he didn't. Again, that's a direct allusion to Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom.
Yes, I love the one joke about Baron Ünderbheit that works for me is when he says like really penny ante stuff in his high gravitas villain voice. Like that's the thing that happens several times in the show. But like him saying it was my lab partner, like that's like a real petty thing, dude.
And also him going to college and doing all that stuff is very funny. Like all these people, we're going to see that. We're going to see them all be roommates and go to school at the same time, which is very funny.
Yes. Oh man, can't wait to talk about that episode. I like that quite a bit. But Monarch says, oh, you can't just wander into the middle of a high stakes chess tournament and yell "King me" just because Venture bitched up your face.
I like that too. I don't like that word. I excise it from my vocabulary.
It's a real sometimes word and sometimes is not very frequently. But just the phrase "bitched up your face" is really good and evocative.
The delivery is incredible as well. Really, really good. And then Venture and I have been involved in a deadly game of cat and also cat for years.
That is like that's not just like funny because it's not the way that it works. It's also really psychologically fraught. Like he can't consider Venture to be the mouse because that implies that Venture is weaker than him and he has been unable to get him. So it has to be a battle between equals, but he does not have a colloquialism ready for that. Yeah.
Monarch goes on to try to show Ünderbheit his slideshow, his 37-point plan, but it won't load on this like Monarch OS that he's using because he has a lot of extensions here. This is when back in the panic room, Dean mentions Helper, and Russell's like, oh yeah, Helper. Tries to call him, but he won't answer because he's hitchhiking away.
Yep.
And Dean's like, well, maybe he's jealous of your new robot. And Rusty goes, well, robots don't have feet. And then flashes back to all of the sweet things that Helper has done.
But they've only done like 3 or 4 episodes, so that's all they have to pull from.
Yeah, they don't do flashbacks from when he was a kid.
No, we're gonna get that later. Like,
yeah,
but yeah, I just the idea that like, oh, this is the moment when he has the epiphany that Helper has feelings.
And it's not like this informs his behavior from here on out.
No, he does monstrous things. I mean, to Helper, especially in the jump to season 4.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we cut over to the henchmen. When the Monarch's henchmen come over and he's like, "You are supposed to stay on your side of the line." They say, and he's basically like, "Hey, we're gonna be here for a while. We got some beers. Do you guys want to?" And it's really sweet.
Just like, oh, we don't. Well, like we would feel bad being over here by the Monarch maybe drinking and seeing you guys stand here. Like, just come on. Hence solidarity. I love the sound of the henchman solidarity.
And eventually this will extend to like support groups and stuff.
Yes.
It's very sweet. And we learn a little bit about their individual thing. The Monarch kind of recruits from troubled people. Yep. Who are unemployed and stuff. And in Underland, everyone is has to be a henchman from the ages of 12 to 37. And they're executed at 38. It's like really, really rough.
Yeah. I like the Monarch's approach better because that just is funnier to me. Just seeing these henchmen as just victims of capitalism.
Yeah, basically, just people second chance program or whatever.
Well, I mean, like literally, like the one guy says, "I was addicted to crack cocaine."
like a gentleman like the guy selling magazines from Office.
Oh
Space,
yeah.
you know. And then here's 21 reveals lore where it's like, how about you, buddy? He's like, you guys kidnapped me when I was 15.
Which is hilarious because like he knows his mom and goes to live with her.
Yeah. He's just hench life, man. He gets it tattooed.
Yeah. But like 24, no, just like, the plant closed down and I didn't have a degree, not a lot of options. So.
It's very good.
Yeah.
While this is happening, Brock is doing a sabbatical, and we're getting this. For all the life of me, I thought this plot happened later than season 1. The stuff with Sasquatch, like I didn't remember this being the B plot.
Yes.
Of this episode.
It's such a slight B plot too. It doesn't have much to do with anything.
No, it's not. It's just to tie it into the real world pop culture.
Yeah.
It's just to signal to us that, hey, in this universe, all of the 70s and 60s pop culture adventure things exist.
Yeah. It was both fiction and reality. Love it. Yeah. But like when Brock couldn't answer his satellite phone watch, it was because he had thrown a knife and he had hit a Sasquatch. Like we got a Bigfoot here. Brock is going to go and do his thing when straight up Steve Austin, not Stone Cold, not Steve Austin Stone Cold. No, it's Steve Austin from the $6 Million Man, here called Steve Summers, which is clever because Summers is the last name of the Bionic Woman. He jumps down to defend it, and for the first time in the series that we've seen, somebody gets an upper hand on Brock.
Yeah, he's the Bionic Man.
Yeah,
and that means you get those awesome like the Bionic Man jumping sounds, which are very appealing.
Yeah,
and it seems like they're just having a fight at this point. They don't trust each other. Another kind of comic cliche.
Yeah.
Brock recognizes him.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, he shoots an arrow at him and sparks come out. He goes, bionic, huh? Let's see how bionic, and kicks him in the balls.
How right in my Cape Canaverals.
Cape Canaverals is real good.
Yep.
This is a reference to multiple episodes, actually, of the $6 Million Man.
It's a two-parter.
It's more than a two-parter. There are at least 5 episodes where the $6 Million Man hung out with Sasquatch.
Whoa.
They became buddies in that show, which is fucking wild to me.
That's crazy.
But I watched some clips on YouTube, and it's pretty weird.
Yeah. In the commentary, they talk about like, it was a two-parter, and like they were like aliens, but they were actually robots hiding up in the woods and the mountains, and it looked like they could teleport, but they actually just went invisible and then moved and then became visible again, something like that. Yeah. No.
And then Sasquatch would become a semi-recurring guest character.
Weird.
The $6 Million Man. We get the little backstory on him, where he's presumed dead because of this test ship accident he was in. They saved him. They put $6 million worth of stuff in him, but they make him pay it back. Like, do you have any idea how long it takes to pay back $6 million on a government salary?
And that's kind of the boilerplate joke for this series, which is thing from Pulp Fiction, but with a real consequence associated with it.
Yes, like a comedy version of Warren Ellis's Ruins.
Yeah, where it's like, oh yeah, like they would make him pay that off, wouldn't he? Because it's medical. Like, yeah, it's a procedure.
Yeah, and also the government's not going to do things for free.
Right.
They're here to hurt you. So he continues. He mentions he was out in the woods, and he basically went AWOL because he met Sasquatch. And the twist that this is giving is that they fall in love. He met his little Sasburger. Cupid must have been using bionic arrows that day.
I love that.
It's real good.
Yeah. And that's why that's why the army is here, because they're looking for him. They want to get their investment back. They want nothing, they don't know about the Sasquatch. That's not what they're after. But Brock does not want to separate them. They don't want to be pulled apart from each other. So Brock has a plan. He yanks off Steve's bionic arm, but without Steve unhooking it. So it feels like he just has his arm pulled out.
Yeah, he says, "This is your bionic one, right?" And before he can answer, he rips it off because that was hooked up to my brain.
Yeah.
very sweet. And then they're going to escape. While this is happening, the henchmen are basically doing Devil's Night stuff to the Venture compound. They're like, hey, let's have some real fun.
Yeah.
And they start TPing the statues and shit.
Yeah, they're doing a little like a little vandalism riot outside. Helper, he has gotten the call, Rusty has told him, hey, I love you, I need you back here. He goes back and he forces a system restart by shorting out the electric panel. This causes the kids to do their Go Team Helper, our first modified Go Team Venture. They make a little H with their fingers.
When they do that, when they're telling off Gardo at this point, at one point, Dean says, like, yeah, Helper's a real robot to Gardo, which is really funny as well. He's clearly a robot, man.
Yeah.
Very, very cute. But this allows, when Helper does this little mission to get back in, it lets Gardo out. So Gardo is busy killing all the henchmen.
Oh, it's a bloodbath.
Yeah, absolute bloodbath. Like, they're doing pranks, and Gardo is a military robot.
So Brock, in executing his plan to get Steve and the Squatch out, rolls past the military checkpoint, past the guy who, the MP, we didn't talk about this, he's so enamored with Brock that he picks up his cigarette butt, like literally one of the grossest objects on earth, to keep as a little talisman of the time that he met Brock Sampson. He rolls back. We've got Steve Austin in the back seat. He's dressed up in olive drab, and he's got like long shaggy hair and a mustache coated like a Vietnam vet. And in the front seat, we have a shaved Sasquatch who looks hideous.
It's absolutely horrifying, like really rough looking.
Yep.
They're like, he's like, yeah, me and my old Vietnam vets like to get together in the woods. They look over at Sasquatch. He's like, you ever see Combat, son? You should look so good after stepping on a landmine. As they run off, another military police pops up and says, like, you didn't recognize that was a shaved Sasquatch, and Steve Austin wearing a beard made of shaved Sasquatch or shaved Bigfoot specifically.
Yeah.
Which was real good. And the shave, the line here is really, really good.
Well, just like, they get away, they're relieved. And Brock's like, hey, you could have told me it was a dude. Before I had
to shave him. Like, he says it. He says it for real. And he's like, what's the matter? Are you shy? Sasquatch doesn't have anything you haven't seen before.
Sasquatch is something I haven't seen before.
And they do a really good job making Sasquatch pretty hideous in this.
Yeah.
Like, it's a pretty gross critter.
The facial bone structure it's not even ape-like. Like, it is specifically grotesque. Like, in a way that like a manufactured cryptid would be, that was like made out of a bunch of like taxidermied animals that were sewn together.
Yeah. And then this episode kind of just limps over the finish line.
Yeah.
Here. Like, it's like we've got like our kind of climax. Everything is a little too neat, I think. The Monarch and Ünderbheit agree to file with the Guild of Calamitous Intent to do a team up, an article of collusion. But when Monarch calls the henchmen, they're all dead. Brock rolls up, accidentally runs over Gardo, seeing all the destruction, and just sees Rusty's face, thinking he ran over Rusty.
Yes.
And that's credits. Like, again, it just kind of ends, and then the post-credit sequence is a big nothing as well.
Yeah. It's literally Rusty pressing the button to open the door to the panic room, and Helper immediately closing it because he's still huffy. They have not reconciled.
Early on in the show, one of the notes I have is that a lot of the early plots of this deal with people not answering their phones.
Yes, that has happened a couple of times and will happen again.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, it's just like, people can't get a hold of each other. And that, that feels like not like super poignant, but at least like kind of important to this.
Yeah. Yep. But like, this is a cool episode. Like, we actually get to see, for as much as like Baron Ünderbheit is the kind of the featured player on this side of it, the fact that we get an actual plot from the Monarch that is not fucking around by accident in New York City, or kind of like accidentally running into the ventures in Mexico, like where he's actually like trying to put a plan in place and having it run into like really surmountable obstacles that he just cannot get over because of his own personal hangups. and because of the way this world works, like, yeah, like that's really cool. I like that we get to see that here.
Agreed. Yeah. A good episode. Again, lots of really funny jokes, pretty slight, pre-season 1, but still fun and lots of firsts.
Yeah.
So if you're a dork for the lore like I am, the introduction of OSI and the guild is very important.
Yeah. And if you're a dork for Helper like I am, you're going to have a lot of fun seeing his emotional trauma. Yeah.
And just having Helper on patrol. It's our boy.
Yeah.
That's gonna be it for this episode of Orb. We appreciate you for listening. Thank you.
Yeah. If you would like to hear these episodes a week early, I about said a day early, that wouldn't be a great reward for our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Get access to these episodes a week early. Get access to all of our episodes a week early for our entire show, our entire network, because you support your boys and support all the work that we and our friends do here. So thank you.
Yeah. We really do appreciate it. Ratings, reviews, really good. When a show is early, tell your friends. We will be back next week with more. And no one asked this, but it's worth. We do have a recap episode planned, and people will be able to write in.
Yes,
if you have thoughts about season 1, that's also where we'll talk about things like DVD special features.
Yeah.
Like it's worth. I like the little documentary thing on how Astrobase works.
Yep.
Voiced by Pete White and Billy Quizboy. So we'll talk about that stuff. There's definitely like a season wrap up kind of episode thing that we have planned. So see you then.
See you then.
A couple months. Yeah. Until next time,
go Team Venture.